Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Sunday Service Podcast. So, this is season 2 of the Sunday Service Podcast. Last season, we were able to share with you guys resourceful information from expert guests. So, this season is no different, but we'll be discussing different topics. And for this month, we will be focusing on American Heart Month for this month, and mainly it will highlight women heart health. We have Dr. Chantrise with us here today, and we mainly wanted to take the time to speak with her today because she's an expert on heart health and being a survivor of a heart attack. So please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you and your journey.
To some degree.
Yes, you did, because you survived. You're here.
I did. So my name is Dr. Chantrise Sims Holliman. I am not a medical doctor. My doctorate is actually in education. I spent almost 20 years teaching high school literature and composition and loved just about every minute of it. I am originally from Newton, Massachusetts. Fig Newtons are named after my hometown. Fun fact. But I have lived in Georgia for the past 26, 27 years, and I currently live in Pooler, Georgia, which is 15 minutes outside of Savannah. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I am an author, I talk a lot, and I'm a contractor for the CDC where I do more writing than anything else.
It's beautiful. You're a triple threat. I did my research, but I did not know that you actually were an author. So this is a surprise to me. But before we go deeper, what kind of books do you normally write? Does it correlate with your experience with being a heart attack survivor?
It does. So the very first book that I wrote was actually many years ago, and that was for teachers. So I've always been in a space of wanting to share lessons, share wisdom. So that was my first book. My most not even my most recent book, but the book that correlates to my experience as a heart attack survivor is called Shoes Without Feet. SHOES is an acronym for strength, hope, obstacles, encouragement, and success. And it essentially tells the story of from the beginning. This is the day that I had my heart attack all the way through until I stopped writing the book. So it came out in 19, so it only spans for about a year. And I'm actually in the process of updating the book and re-releasing it with a new cover and an additional chapter or two about, so here's what's been going on in my life since you finished reading this book. And it is a faith-based book because my faith is an integral part of my story. And I tell people that Shoes Without Feet is the what happened, and then Noah had an ark. You need a raft. Is the sort of how did I recover? What are the principles that I used in order to get from having my heart attack, where there were many, many complications, and it completely changed life as I know it, and how I got from there on deaths on my deathbed to kind of where I am now. So, and I just finished a whole series of devotional journals because when I get bored, I make stuff. So,
That's very powerful. You're able to share your wisdom and your experience through these books because, as we may not know, heart disease is commonly known as a man's disease.
right.
But not many of us know that also affects women too,
Hmm.
of any age, right?
Right.
It doesn't have to do with age. It could be genetics, it could be stress, it can be so
Hmm.
many things. And it's important to bring awareness to that cause because I didn't know. I always associated heart attack with health or diet,
Right.
but it can be many things.
Right.
And I'm very happy that you're here to educate us on that so that we can be aware of
Hmm.
the signs and to prevent those things outside of, dieting and eating healthy.
Right.
There's genetics, right? So can you share with us what life was like for you before your heart attack and how did you first realize something was wrong?
Sure. So before my heart attack, actually was a runner. So I was training for a 10K road race here in Georgia called the Peachtree. And I used to run half marathons. I used to run Ks. I was part of a women's running group. I used to run 5 miles every morning at 5 a.m., go to the gym, get my 5 miles in. So I was that person. I was also very busy and because I was in education, so there was always something that needed to be done. And so I was always busy. I was always putting my health like to the back burner because there was always something that needs to be done. And I think as women especially, sometimes we don't feel like there's time for us to take care of ourselves because there's the husband, there's the kids, there's the job, there's whatever else is going on. And so that really was my story. I also live with an autoimmune disease. So I also live with lupus. And I knew that I had lupus. I knew that I lived with lupus. I'd known it since about 2005, but it never really posed a problem. And when it did, I would just go to my doctor and be like, "Hey, I'm having a flare. Give me something so I can go back to doing what it was that I was doing." For me, as far as I knew, life was, going along just fine. But hindsight being 2020, there were definitely some signs that something was wrong. At the time, I didn't know that they were signs that I was going to have this heart attack, but my blood pressure was high, even though I was eating really healthy and eating the kale and drinking the green pressed juice I was doing everything correctly, right? But my blood pressure wouldn't go down. So my doctor put me on medicine and it still wasn't going down. Like 2 weeks before I had my heart attack, I had uh excuse me, vertigo. Never had vertigo a day in my life. Turns out it was also related to the blood pressure. And I wasn't feeling badly. I was busy. I had things to do. And the day that I had my heart attack, I'm sorry, the night before I had my heart attack, I ate a cheesesteak for dinner, which is something that didn't normally eat, but I had a craving for it, so I ate it. So when I woke up on March 23rd with chest pains, I just figured it was gas because I wasn't supposed to have the cheesesteak before I went to bed. So I figured, okay, I'm gonna go downstairs, get a ginger ale, settle my stomach, go into work. It's gonna be fine. I went to go downstairs to the kitchen, and I got to the stairs and immediately got like violently ill and had to run to the bathroom and started throwing up. I crawled back in the bed. My chest was still hurting, and I'm just thinking, okay, this is really bad. But I kept thinking in my head, I'm going to work. I have things to do. It was my husband who looked at me and noticed that I did not look well. And he asked me, how you feeling? And I was like, my chest hurts, but I'm sure it's just gas. I'll be fine. And for some reason, he said, do I need to call an ambulance? And in my head, I'm thinking, no, we don't need to call an ambulance. But yes is what came out of my mouth. And I'm thankful that I said yes because the paramedics came. They asked what was wrong. He was like, my wife is having chest pains. And they were like, well, let's check your blood pressure. So they checked my blood pressure, and the paramedics, like, face just went like blank. And they were like, okay, so what hospital do you want us to take her to? And I'm like, well, why am I going to a hospital? It's just gas. And she said, no, ma'am, you're having a heart attack. And I was like, oh, well, then we should probably go to the hospital now. And my husband gave them the name of the hospital that he wanted to take me to. And the paramedic looked at him and said, if we take her there, she won't make it. Okay. So they took me to the closest hospital. And the last thing that I remember was them wheeling me into the emergency room and seeing my husband standing outside the door and hearing the nurse say her husband is standing outside. And that's the last thing I remember. And I was in a coma for a week because the heart attack that I had was a widowmaker. It's what it's called. The main artery in my heart was had a blockage, and I found this out later that the doctors essentially told my husband, told my best friend, told my daughter, uh, are her parents local? You need to call them. She's not going to make it through the weekend. She'll be gone before Sunday. Clearly, the doctors were wrong because I'm here. But yeah, so I spent a week in a coma and found out later that the reason why this heart attack was so challenging was because I live with lupus. And if you know anything about an autoimmune disease, it's when your immune system doesn't work right. So all the things that they were doing to save my life, my immune system, because it's backwards, thought that they were threats. So my immune system was fighting the medicine, fighting all of the things that they were trying to give me that should have stopped my heart attack. And so there were some very severe complications with my heart attack that caused me to spend all told 103 days in the hospital.
That's a powerful story. And You're a warrior for even going through that and being able to be here with us today. Not only did you have to deal with one health issue, but another health issue that blocked you from even being able to get the care and the medication so that you could have been awake quicker. You could have been able to recover quicker. So after your coma, how was your emotions? How did you feel coming back? Were you aware of what happened?
I wasn't. So when I was in the ICU for 7 days, and when I regained consciousness, my husband was at my bedside, and he said, "Do you know what happened?" And I was like, "No." I thought I had a stroke because of the complications that were related to the lupus. When I woke up, I was paralyzed from the waist down. And he's like, "No, you didn't have a stroke. You had a heart attack." I said, "Well, why can't I move my legs?" And he was like, "Well, I don't know." And it turns out that while I was in ICU, for whatever reason, they still don't know, I started bleeding out, like to the point where they couldn't figure out where the blood was coming from. They couldn't figure out how to stop it. It was one doctor who came in and said, "Try this," and that stopped the bleeding. But we found out later that I was bleeding actually from my back. So my spinal cord had a loss of blood, which is the reason why I was paralyzed, is because there was no blood flow going to my spine. So when I was in the hospital, I was, dealing with the fact, okay, I had this heart attack. I'm coming down all of the medication they had me on. And I'm just like, okay, I can't move. What's the deal? While I was in the hospital, I developed an infection, a pretty severe infection in my feet and in my legs. And there were parts of my legs that were actually missing skin because my heart stopped 9 times. I had the initial heart attack, and then they brought me back, and then my heart stopped, and they had to bring me back. And they did that for 9 times. And so they were using the AED paddles, and they kept increasing the amount of electricity that they were pumping through my body to get my heart to stay stable. And what they ended up doing was the electricity was so strong, it burned through my flesh. So I had these patches on my arms and my legs where there was no skin because they were burns. And I developed an infection. And to make a very long story very, very short, I ended up having to have my left leg amputated below the knee and my right leg amputated above the knee because of the infection. In order to stop the infection, that's what they had to do. So I entered in the hospital as a runner, and I left the hospital as a bilateral lower limb amputee who was also partially paralyzed from the waist down. Not a happy camper, to say the least. It was very difficult to, especially in the initial months, to just kind of wrap my brain around. I had a heart attack and now I'm here.
So after all of this experience that you went through after coming out of your coma, but no, initially finding out you're having a heart attack, then being rushed to the hospital,
hmm
then going into the coma, and then waking back up and
hmm
having to continue to fight
Yeah.
more circumstances. How did you navigate all of these changes at one time? And how did you even reach recovery?
I didn't navigate it well. I will say that. It was definitely hard. There were a lot of nights when I just cried because I didn't know, you ask all those questions, why me? Why did this happen? What am I supposed to do now? How do I how do I navigate life now, not being able to walk, not having my legs? I live in a two-story townhome. What are people going to think when they see me? What's my husband going to think? What's my child going to? How do I do this thing called life? And recovery happened because I didn't really have a choice. So I spent 60 days in the hospital, and then I spent they had to move me to the rehab hospital. So 21 additional days in the rehab hospital. And that's where they kind of, forced me to start to figure some things out. I wasn't ready. I was definitely battling severe depression, and I didn't want to try. I didn't want to fight. I figured my life is over and I'm just going to go and become a lump on the sofa for the rest of my life, and that's it. So it took 2 months in the hospital, a month in rehab, probably about another 30 days at home before I even would let people come see me because I'm still getting used to this new me. And here's the really interesting part about this is I had this massive heart attack that actually should have killed me. There were 3 men that came in the same night with the exact same heart attack as I had. They all died, and I'm the one that lived. So they had to put a stent in my heart in order to open up the blockage. And my cardiologist to this day was just like, you're a walking, rolling miracle because you only had one blockage. We removed the blockage. She said, your heart is perfect now. You don't have high blood pressure. You don't have high cholesterol. You don't have diabetes. You're not hypertensive. The only thing that was wrong with you was you had this one blocked artery and you live with lupus. And the lupus and the one blocked artery did not play nice together. So it took me about 3 months of before I would let people see me. The rest of that year was really challenging, just trying to figure out how do I use the bathroom? How do I maneuver around the house? How do I do any of these things? And so that was 2018. 2019 rolled around, and I would say that's when my recovery started in earnest because I woke up on January 1st and was like, I want my life back. Sitting on the sofa had become boring. I didn't want to do it anymore. And that's when I began to recover for real and started doing what it is that I needed to do in order to ensure that I could live the best life possible.
Yes, yes, yes. And it's a hard experience you went through. Like, as you said, you wouldn't have been here had you not had a purpose, had you not fought through all of those
Right.
obstacles. And it's very empowering to see that you chose not to let it defeat you long term, but you were able to go through that experience and was able to come out to empower others now.
Right.
Was there a turning point in your recovery where you felt empowered to take control of your health?
Yes. So like I said, January 2019 probably was the beginning. And then because I was a runner and because I was used to exercising, I was used to working out, and because I could no longer do that, anytime you become sedentary, you run the risk of gaining weight. And I started to see these little rolls on my on my stomach, and I was like, yeah, I don't like that. So I had to start figuring out, okay, what kind of exercises can I do? Like I said, my heart was fine. They put the stent in and I was fine, but I wasn't particularly pleased with the way that I was looking, and so I knew I had to lose some weight. So the only thing that I could think of was to get a hand bike. And actually, if you can see behind me, it's actually back there in the corner.
How does
Where
that work? How does that
so
like
it sits on a
I'm
table.
trying to imitate the hand
Yeah,
bike?
and you use your hands. Some people, if they have legs, put it underneath their desk and put their feet and use it like that. So it's the same thing. But I got a hand bike and said, okay, we're going to start working out. I never was a particularly unhealthy eater. So it was just a matter of, although I had done quite a bit of, was emotional eating, give me the burgers and the fries because my life is over and I don't really care. But then I woke up, I was like, okay, well, probably don't need to have the burgers and the fries anymore. So I, went back to my previous eating habits. So lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, lots of water, whole grains, and all of those things. Because my cardiologist even said that one of the things that saved your life was that aside from this one blocked artery, you were completely healthy. There was nothing, I mean, you have the lupus, but in terms of the other factors that most people think about when they think of having a heart attack, he's like, you had none of those. So I just kind of went back to what I knew: lean meats, lots of water, working on my hand bike, and all of those things to make sure that I stayed healthy.
Yes, yes, yes. As you said, you were already healthy prior to it, right?
Right.
You are a runner, and then that's actually what led you to be even one of the factors that led you to be able to be here with us today.
Hmm.
So for those that believe that all you need to do is diet and exercise, and not manage all parts of their life, like stress, not catering to themselves, what advice would you give them?
Yeah. So women, you don't have to do everything, right? I was that woman. I was the one who was juggling all the balls: wife, mother, job, volunteer. I was doing all of the things. And I continued to put myself on the back burner. I would make doctor's appointments and then cancel them. I can't go to the doctor today because I have to do these 15 things. I knew that I lived with an autoimmune disease. I didn't take it seriously. as long as I was able to keep doing what I was doing, okay, I'm going to go to the doctor. And my doctor used to laugh at me and said, the only time you come to see me is when your body's falling apart. And that was our running joke, that, you don't come in for your maintenance appointments. You come in because you feel really, really bad. And in order for me to go to the doctor, I had to be feeling really, really bad. So make sure you make yourself a priority. It's okay to put yourself first. A very good friend of mine's mother passed away some years ago. And at her funeral, one of the most beautiful things that I ever heard anybody say about someone was that she learned to love herself better so she could love others more. And that has kind of become my mantra for taking better care of myself. If I want to be here for the people that I love, if I want to take care of my daughter and her dog, and I want to be here for my husband, then I need to do a better job of loving me and taking care of me so that I can be here to love and take care of the people that matter. So I would just say, make sure that you make yourself a priority. Self-care is not selfish.
Yeah.
If you want to be here for the people you love, they want you here. So take care of you so that you can be there for them.
Thank you so much. I obviously needed to hear that message. I'm finding now myself being a mom, a wife,
Hmm.
social worker, entrepreneur, so many things that
Hmm.
not taking care of myself can lead to health problems, can
Yeah.
lead to stress, can lead to being stagnant, right? So
Yep.
many factors. And understanding that taking care of myself is not selfish. Pursuing my career is not selfish. Taking care of my fibroids, hypothyroidism is not selfish.
At all.
And it's empowering and very important, as you said, to put yourself first, because you can't give to others, right? And you can't
Right.
provide empathy or happiness if we're not taking care of ourselves. So I really do hope that our listeners really take in what you're saying and apply it into their life so that they don't endure any health problems or they don't endure any mental health issues as
Right.
well.
Right.
In your opinion, why do you think that it's critical for more awareness campaigns to occur around this topic?
Because, and you said it at the very beginning, most people, they think heart attack and they think men. So I am, for the 2024, this year, I am part of the Go Red for Women campaign for the American Heart Association. And in my class, there's a picture of us right back there. In my class, there are 12 of us, and either we've all had either heart attacks, strokes, or both. And before I had my heart attack, I was like you. I was just like, oh yeah, heart attacks, those are for men. Women don't have heart attacks. We absolutely do, but we don't, our symptoms aren't the same. So a lot of times we think that what we're feeling is, like you said, it's stress. It's, I need to take a nap. It's, I ate a cheesesteak. It's all of these other things, and we ignore the symptoms. So in order to raise awareness, this has to be crucial, that not only do we make sure that women understand that we have heart attacks, but our family members understand that women have heart attacks. That if your wife, your mother, your aunt, your sister comes to you and says, I'm having acid reflux or I'm having intestinal issues, and that's not something that they normally have. I'm not saying to panic, but you want to make sure that that person gets checked out, because one of the things that can be a sign of having a heart attack in women is gastrointestinal issues. You start having acid reflux, you start having stomach issues. Like, that's what happened to me. That was the first indication that I knew that something was wrong, was that I got nauseous and I threw up. Most people would see that and be like, oh, you just ate the wrong thing, or, it's, you just need to take, drink some ginger ale and you'll be fine. But we need to raise awareness so that women know what to look for. And again, not to cause panic, but so that you are aware if things don't quite feel the way that the way that they normally should feel, that you at least begin to ask the question, right? Like you at least begin to say, okay, this doesn't feel right. Let me call my doctor. Had I gone to the doctor when I had the vertigo, had I made all of my appointments with my primary care physician, so I could have gotten my blood pressure checked, so I could have gotten an EKG done. All of the had I done this, maybe this would not have happened. But yeah, we really need to raise awareness so that women know what the symptoms are so that they can address them before it becomes to be too late.
We
Mhm.
spoke about the factors of what women can do to be proactive in making sure that either they're aware of the heart attack symptoms or don't have heart attack in the
Right.
future. So, how do you think that healthcare systems can better support women in understanding and managing heart disease?
First of all, listen to women when they say that something is off. A lot of times our voices get silenced. Now, thankfully, I had a fabulous primary care physician who listened to me when I said, I don't feel well or this is off. And so he would run tests. But a lot of time women, especially women of color, are dismissed as, oh, it's in your head. You just need to, get some rest. You just need to eat better. And sometimes all of those things are true, but sometimes it's more than that. So I think the first thing is listen to women when we say something feels off and don't just kind of push it aside as, oh, you're just being emotional, and then do something about it. But also that it's important that women become their own advocates. And the way that you become an advocate is you do your research. So the American Heart Association has an entire website on what the heart attack symptoms are for women and what things you can do to make sure that you are aware of what they are. Know those things. Also, know yourself, know your body, know yourself well enough to know, okay, I'm usually at like an 8 out of 10 on any given day. Today, I feel like a 5. Let me go figure out what that is and be vocal. If the doctors don't run the test, then you say, I need you to run this test anyway. I know you don't want to do it, but the American Heart Association says that A, B, C, D, and E, and bring it to them. And if you have to, and if that doctor won't do it, get a second opinion and find somebody else who will. Don't take, and I learned this, don't take the doctor's word as law because not every doctor has the same vested interest in your health as you do. So you need to find the physician or the nurse practitioner or whoever who's going to take your symptoms seriously. And if that means that you have to advocate for yourself, then you have to advocate for yourself.
Yes, you couldn't have said it any better. Like you said, is ensuring that you're your first advocate, right? Because when we go in to get services from healthcare specialists, there's so many people that they see in a day
Hmm.
that you're just one of those clients, right?
Right.
So you have to let them know what is the concern and how you want to move forward. Of course, it's important to hear their recommendation, but it doesn't mean that that's your only option. And I can relate with that with you because when I was diagnosed with fibroids, I was trying to find a specialist to find the best treatment for me
Right.
without having to give up my fertility. All I was told was remove your uterus or put particles in there to block the fibroids. But I'm like, how does that help me have kids in the future?
Right.
Nobody was willing to hear me.
Hmm.
Well, as you said, we have to be our own advocate and have support systems that can advocate for us as well.
Yeah.
Because if we're forced to make a decision based off of what someone tells us what the capability is, then we're making a decision out of fear. We're making a decision out of limitation. And that's not the best choice for us. So
Yeah.
I second that, as you said. So we're digging a little bit deeper. How has surviving a heart attack shaped your purpose or perspective in life? I know that you're very proactive in
Yeah.
sharing your story. You're very proactive in being a part of campaigns and
Mhm.
writing your book and everything. But I guess I just want to dig a little bit deeper on that.
Or having a heart attack caused me to refocus what I thought my purpose was. So, as an educator, my plan was to stay in education until I'd done my 25, 30 years and then retire and, go off and to the sunset. After having my heart attack, what I realized is that I'm still in education. I'm just not in what I would call traditional K through 12 education. That my job is still to educate. It's just to focus primarily on women, right? So making sure that I'm a voice for women, making sure that I'm an example for women, making sure that I share my story with women so that they can hopefully avoid having an experience like I had. So I am super big on self-care. Treat yourself. Take a nap. Say no. Like, you don't have to do all the things. One of my good girlfriends says all the time, remember, you can do anything, but you don't have to do everything. And I think for a lot of women, we are kind of in this position of feeling like we have to do everything. No, we don't. I used to tell my students, no is a complete sentence. If you ask me to do something and I say no, there is no other explanation that is needed or required. And sometimes we feel guilty for saying no. We're like, well, I don't want them to be upset. I want to be helpful. Sometimes you just need to say no. I can't do that. And if no is too abrupt for you, fine. There are like 15 million ways that you can say no without actually saying no. Hey, I can't do it now, but can you get back to me next week? But just making sure that you are treating yourself as well as you treat everybody else. So my purpose now is to really push that narrative forward about your health, also because I'm now disabled, and disabled people tend to be overlooked when they have issues or they have medical concerns. Being a voice for disabled people as well. So I'm just out here being the voice for all kinds of people. And I feel like that's my purpose. I feel like that's the reason why I didn't die. That's the reason why I recovered as well as I did, because there's still work for me to do. And that's my purpose. My purpose is to be the voice and speak out on things. And also, what I've discovered is that people are more interested and more aware of things because they know me. And I'm a firm believer that things like becoming disabled or even having a heart attack become real to people when it's someone that they know. So I have people that I know, friends and family, who will now take their health very seriously. Because if Chantrise, who was running half marathons and drinking the water and doing all the things to have a heart attack, and I'm over here eating, all of these, high grease, high fat, high salt, dealing with all this stuff, if she can have a heart attack, then I can have a heart attack. Let me clean up my diet. And so that's really important as well. So I'm still teaching. I'm just not teaching in high school anymore.
And we're blessed to have you. As you said, if you didn't go through that journey, we wouldn't be here learning about this cause. We wouldn't be here
Right.
learning about your experience and having an awakening moment to really realize that being burnt out, not taking care of our health, and not paying attention to the symptoms, right? Because our body,
Yeah.
there's symptoms that we feel, but we
Right.
ignore it because, like, oh, I have to take care of the kids. I have work in the morning. I have to run a business, and it's a constant wheel, right? It never stops. So, and it's amazing how you were able to catch it so early, so that you could be here with us. Had you not been able to catch the symptoms, or your husband had he not let you
Yeah.
know you're not feeling well,
Yeah.
it could have been not the best result
Yeah,
for
because
you.
my thought was I'm going to get up, I'm going to get dressed. And it wasn't odd for me to go to work sick. I always used to go to work sick because I have things I have to do. And I'm thankful that my husband had enough discernment to say, do I need to call the ambulance? Because had it been up to me, I would have been in the car. I would have been on the highway. And had my heart attack fully happened when I was on the highway, I wouldn't be here. I would have wrecked. I would have been in an accident. I more than likely would have run off the road and died. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chantrise. I do appreciate you for being here with us. Well, unfortunately, this podcast is getting close to an end, but I wish we could talk to you for hours. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I do appreciate you for really educating us about the importance of our health when it comes to women, and being proactive in knowing the symptoms, but most importantly, not having the state of mind of I'm healthy, everything should
Right.
be fine, right?
Yep.
I'm healthy, I won't have a heart attack. I'm healthy, I won't have health issues. It's like, no, there's other factors in your life that can cause that, right?
Right.
There can be underlying health issues that can
Yeah.
cause heart attacks. So I want to thank you for educating us on that topic. But before we leave, could you leave our audience with a key message about how you feel about your mission?
I'm going to say it again because this is really has become my mantra. Learn to love yourself more so that you can love others better. Like that's the key. Or better yet, let me flip it. Learn to love yourself better so you can love others more, right? Take care of yourself. You are as important, if not more important, than everybody else. And that's not to be selfish. That's not saying that, to be self-centered. But if there's anybody in your life that you care about, whether it be a spouse, a child, a parent, a best friend, your dog, if there's anybody in your life that you care about, they want you to be here. Love yourself enough to do that and grant their request and be there and be here by making sure that you are doing everything that you need to do to keep yourself.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chantrise. I will definitely take in your words of wisdom, and I hope that our listeners do, but I have faith they will as well. So thank you, everybody. Please be sure to share this episode with your friends, family, and loved ones, but particularly with the women in your life, as this is a very important topic that needs to be assessed, but that needs to be acknowledged as well. So please be sure to tune into our episodes that are coming out for this month that focuses on women heart health, which will have other experts as well that tell us about the importance of our health for women. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Chantrise. I
You're
appreciate
so
you for
welcome.